Last month, I received a heartbreaking letter from Margaret, a 78-year-old widow. For years, she'd been silent about how her adult children treated her. They'd cancel plans at the last minute, make decisions without consulting her, and sometimes speak to her as if she were a child. "I don't want to be a burden," she wrote, "but I feel invisible in my own family." Margaret's story isn't unique. Across America, countless seniors struggle with disrespect from the very people who should value them most, their adult children. What makes this particularly painful is that many seniors, like Margaret, suffer in silence, believing that speaking up might risk losing the relationship altogether. But here's the truth. You deserve respect at every age. Your years of wisdom, your sacrifices, and your ongoing value don't diminish simply because you've grown older. And staying silent about disrespect doesn't solve the problem. It often makes it worse. In this video, we're going to explore 6 powerful attitudes that can transform your relationship with adult children who've forgotten how to show proper respect. These aren't just theories. They're practical approaches that have helped thousands of seniors reclaim their dignity and rebuild meaningful connections with their families. Stay with me until the end, because the last attitude we'll discuss is something most seniors never consider, yet it can completely change how your children respond to you. You'll also discover specific phrases you can use when conversations get difficult, ensuring you're heard without creating unnecessary conflict. If you're finding this information valuable so far, please comment "respect" below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss our weekly videos on living your best life in your golden years. Don't miss the final insight. It's one that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in predicting what lies ahead. These markers could completely reshape how you see your future and add valuable years to your life. If this has sparked your interest, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this video with those you care about. Together, let's make informed choices for a healthier, longer life. Now let's get started with the first attitude that changes everything. Attitude 1. Set clear boundaries without guilt. The first transformative attitude is learning to set clear boundaries without feeling guilty about it. Many seniors struggle with this concept because they grew up in an era where family hierarchy was different, and the idea of setting boundaries with your children might feel uncomfortable or even disrespectful. But here's the reality. Boundaries aren't walls. They're guidelines that teach others how to treat you with dignity. When you fail to establish boundaries, you unintentionally teach your children that disrespect is acceptable. Consider Thomas, a 72-year-old retired teacher. His daughter had developed a habit of dropping off her kids at his house without asking first, sometimes even when he had other plans. Thomas never complained because he didn't want to seem unloving toward his grandchildren. But as this pattern continued, he found himself feeling resentful and used. With guidance, Thomas learned to set a simple boundary. He told his daughter, "I love spending time with the kids, but I need you to call at least a day before to check if I'm available. If you can't reach me, please assume I have other plans." He explained this calmly, without anger but with firmness. His daughter was initially surprised. She had grown so accustomed to her father's automatic availability that she hadn't considered how her actions affected him. But after the initial adjustment, something remarkable happened. She began to show more consideration in other areas too. The boundary had actually improved their relationship by establishing mutual respect. Setting boundaries might feel selfish at first, but remember, good boundaries make good relationships. You're not rejecting your children. You're teaching them how to have a healthy adult relationship with you. Here are some practical steps for setting boundaries. Identify what specifically feels disrespectful. Is it being interrupted, having decisions made for you, or something else? Decide what would feel respectful instead. Communicate this clearly using I statements rather than accusations. "I feel overlooked when decisions about my health are made without consulting me. I need to be included in these conversations." Remain calm, but firm if you meet resistance. You might say, "I understand this is a change, but it's important to me." Remember, you don't need to apologize for having needs. Setting boundaries isn't about controlling others. It's about taking responsibility for your own well-being. Attitude 2. Communicate with courage and clarity. The second attitude that changes everything is learning to communicate with both courage and clarity. Many seniors grew up in families where difficult feelings weren't discussed openly. You may have been taught that keeping the peace is more important than speaking your truth. But silencing yourself comes at a high cost, to your dignity, your relationships, and even your health. Take Eleanor, an 80-year-old who had always prided herself on being low maintenance. When her son and daughter-in-law moved her into a senior community without involving her in the decision, she was devastated but said nothing. She simply accepted it, telling herself, "They know what's best." But inside, she felt betrayed and infantilized. Her silent resentment grew, affecting her health and creating distance in her relationship with her son. What Eleanor needed was the courage to have an honest conversation. After months of suffering, she finally told her son how the decision had affected her. "I know you meant well, but when you made that decision without me, I felt as though my voice didn't matter. I'm still capable of participating in choices about my life, and I need you to include me." Her son was genuinely shocked. He had misinterpreted her silence as approval. The conversation was difficult, but ultimately healing. Together, they established new patterns of communication that honored Eleanor's autonomy. Communicating with courage doesn't mean being confrontational. It means expressing your feelings honestly, without accusation. Here's how to do it effectively. First, choose the right moment. Avoid times when either of you is tired, hungry, or distracted. You might say, "I'd like to talk about something important. Is this a good time, or should we set aside time tomorrow?" Second, focus on specific behaviors rather than character judgments. Instead of, "You're so dismissive," try, "When you interrupt me during family discussions, I feel as though my opinion doesn't matter." Third, express your needs clearly. Don't make your children guess what would make you feel respected. Tell them directly, "I need you to ask for my input before making plans that involve me." And finally, listen as well as speak. Truly effective communication is a two-way street. Your children may have perspectives you haven't considered. This kind of honest communication might feel uncomfortable at first, but consider the alternative: years of silent suffering and deteriorating relationships. You deserve better, and with practice, courageous communication becomes easier. If you're still watching and finding value in these insights, please comment "Communicate" below. Your engagement helps us create more content that addresses your specific concerns. Now let's move on to the third attitude. Attitude 3. Reclaim your independence. The third powerful attitude is reclaiming and maintaining your independence. One of the most common pathways to disrespect happens when seniors become, or are perceived to be, overly dependent on their adult children. When you rely too heavily on others for your needs, the power balance shifts, sometimes creating a parent-child dynamic in reverse. Consider Robert, a 75-year-old widower who gradually stopped driving, managing his finances, or even choosing his own clothes after moving closer to his daughter. His intentions were good. He didn't want to be in the way. But within a year, he noticed his daughter speaking to him as though he were a child. She would make decisions for him, sometimes with an impatient sigh that clearly communicated, "Dad can't handle this himself." The turning point came when Robert realized that by surrendering his independence, he had unintentionally invited disrespect. He decided to reclaim areas of his life where he could still be self-sufficient. He arranged for transportation services instead of always asking his daughter for rides. He took a computer class at the senior center so he could manage his email and online banking. He began making more decisions independently, from what to wear to what to eat. As Robert demonstrated his capabilities, his daughter's perception shifted. She began consulting him more often and speaking to him as the capable adult he was. By reclaiming his independence, Robert also reclaimed his dignity. Now, this doesn't mean you should never ask for help. Interdependence is part of family life at every age. But there's a crucial difference between interdependence, where everyone both gives and receives, and dependence, where the flow goes primarily one way. Here are some practical ways to maintain or reclaim your independence. Invest in technology that empowers you. Learning to use smartphones, tablets, or voice-activated devices can reduce your need to ask for help with everyday tasks. Consider alternative resources for needs your children currently meet. This might mean hiring occasional help, using senior transportation services, or finding new ways to connect socially beyond family. Continue learning new skills. The act of learning itself demonstrates your ongoing capacity for growth and independence. Contribute in meaningful ways, whether it's offering wisdom from your experience helping with grandchildren or sharing a special skill. Being able to give, not just receive, reinforces your value in the family system. Remember, independence isn't about doing everything alone. It's about maintaining agency in your life. When you demonstrate that you're a capable adult making conscious choices, you naturally command more respect. Attitude 4. Cultivate outside relationships. The fourth transformative attitude is cultivating relationships beyond your children. When your adult children become your primary or only social connection, it creates an unhealthy dynamic where their attention, approval, and respect become disproportionately important. This dependency can actually increase the likelihood of accepting disrespectful treatment. Consider Martha, a 79-year-old who had centered her entire life around her son and his family after her husband died. She rearranged her schedule to be available whenever they might call, declined other social invitations to keep her calendar open for them, and gradually lost touch with her own friends. When her son began making dismissive comments about her opinions or forgetting to include her in family events, Martha was devastated, but felt she had nowhere else to turn. The transformation began when Martha joined a book club at her local library. Initially, she was hesitant. It had been years since she'd made new friends. But within months, she had formed meaningful connections with people who valued her insights and enjoyed her company. She reconnected with an old friend from her working days, and they began taking weekly walks together. As Martha's social world expanded, something interesting happened with her son. Her decreased dependence on him for social fulfillment actually seemed to increase his respect for her. When they did spend time together, their interactions improved because Martha brought new experiences and perspectives to the conversation. She was no longer waiting desperately for his attention, and that shifted the entire dynamic. Having diverse relationships serves multiple purposes. It provides emotional fulfillment beyond your family, offers perspective when family interactions become difficult, and reminds both you and your children that you're a whole person with a life beyond your role as parent. Here are some practical ways to expand your social connections. Explore interest-based groups in your community. Whether it's gardening, history, art, or current events, joining groups aligned with your interests connects you with like-minded people. Consider volunteering. Sharing your time and talents not only builds new relationships, but also reinforces your continued value and contribution to society. Reconnect with old friends, even if it's been years. Many seniors find that rekindling past friendships is easier than forming entirely new ones, as you already share history and context. Look into senior center programs specifically designed to foster connections. Many offer everything from coffee chats to organized outings. If mobility is a challenge, explore phone-based or online communities. Technology has created new ways to connect meaningfully without leaving home. Remember, cultivating outside relationships isn't about replacing family connections. It's about creating a balanced social portfolio where your emotional well-being doesn't depend entirely on how your children treat you. When you have multiple sources of respect, connection, and joy, you're less likely to accept disrespect from anyone. If you're finding these insights valuable, please comment "relationships" below to let me know you're here. Your engagement helps our community grow stronger. Now let's move on to the fifth attitude. Attitude 5. Practice strategic forgiveness. The fifth transformative attitude involves practicing what I call strategic forgiveness. Many seniors struggle with a painful dilemma. They feel genuinely hurt by their children's disrespect, yet they deeply value family harmony. This often leads to one of two extremes: either holding on to resentment that poisons the relationship or repeatedly forgiving without addressing the underlying issues. Neither approach leads to respect. Strategic forgiveness offers a middle path. It means releasing the emotional burden of past hurts without necessarily condoning the behavior or exposing yourself to continued disrespect. Take James, an 83-year-old father of 3, who had endured years of his youngest son canceling plans at the last minute, often with flimsy excuses. Each time it happened, James felt devalued, as though his time and feelings didn't matter. He carried this resentment into every interaction, creating tension even when they were together. Through guidance, James learned to practice strategic forgiveness. He acknowledged to himself that his son's behavior had caused real pain. Rather than minimizing this hurt, he fully recognized it. Then he made a conscious decision to release the emotional charge of these past incidents, not for his son's benefit, but for his own peace of mind. However, James also set a clear boundary moving forward. He told his son, "I've decided not to dwell on the past, but I need our future plans to be treated with more respect. If you're not sure you can make it, let's not set a firm date until you are." This approach demonstrated both self-respect and an open heart. James protected himself from future disappointment while still leaving room for the relationship to improve. Over time, his son began to recognize the consequences of his actions and became more reliable. Strategic forgiveness involves several key elements. First, acknowledge the reality of your hurt feelings. Don't minimize your pain or tell yourself it shouldn't bother me. Second, recognize that forgiveness is primarily for your benefit. Carrying resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Third, forgive the person but address the behavior. You can release your anger about past incidents while still establishing clear expectations going forward. Fourth, understand that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. You may need to forgive the same hurt multiple times as feelings resurface. Remember, strategic forgiveness isn't about excusing disrespect. It's about freeing yourself from the ongoing pain of past incidents while creating healthier patterns for the future. This balanced approach protects both your emotional well-being and your family relationships. Attitude 6. Embrace your inherent value. The sixth and perhaps most powerful attitude that transforms relationships with disrespectful adult children is embracing your inherent value, independent of your role as a parent or what you can do for others. Many seniors inadvertently contribute to disrespectful treatment by tying their worth to their usefulness. They might think, as long as I can babysit the grandkids, help financially, or provide other services, my children will value me. This creates a dangerous dynamic where respect becomes conditional on what you can provide rather than who you are. Consider Helen, a 76-year-old grandmother who had always been the family caretaker. She watched her grandchildren whenever asked, cooked for family gatherings, and regularly offered financial help. Yet despite these contributions, her opinions were often dismissed, her preferences overlooked, and her needs treated as secondary. When health issues forced her to reduce these activities, she noticed her children called less frequently and sometimes made comments implying she was now a burden. Helen's breakthrough came when she realized she had been teaching her family that her value lay in what she could do for them, not in her inherent worth as a person. With guidance, she began the challenging but essential work of internally recognizing her intrinsic value, her wisdom, her character, her unique perspective on life, independent of her capacity to serve others. As her internal sense of worth strengthened, she began sharing her thoughts, stories, and wisdom more confidently. Rather than always asking how she could help, she started expressing what she needed or wanted. Remarkably, as she demonstrated self-respect, her children's respect for her gradually increased as well. Embracing your inherent value requires both internal and external shifts. Internally, practice recognizing your worth beyond your parental role. Reflect on the wisdom you've gained, the challenges you've overcome, and the unique perspective you bring. Remind yourself that your value doesn't diminish with age or decreased activity. Externally, begin sharing more of your authentic self with your family. Your opinions, your stories, your insights, not just your help. Talk about your experiences and the wisdom you've gained, not in a preachy way, but as your authentic contribution to family conversations. Pay attention to how you talk about yourself. Avoid self-deprecating comments like, "I'm just a burden now," or "Don't mind me, I'm just an old person." Your words shape both how you view yourself and how others view you. Consider recording your life stories, either in writing or audio. This process affirms the value of your experiences and creates a meaningful legacy for future generations. Remember, respect ultimately flows from your relationship with yourself. When you truly believe in your inherent worth, you naturally begin interacting in ways that invite others to recognize that worth as well. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment "worth" below. Your engagement helps our community grow stronger and shows us which topics matter most to you. As we reach the end of our discussion, I want to address a question that might be on your mind. What if I try these approaches and nothing changes? What if my children continue to treat me disrespectfully? This is where wisdom comes in. Some relationships can be transformed through the attitudes we've discussed. Others may improve somewhat but never reach the level of respect you deserve. In rare cases, the disrespect may be part of a pattern of emotional abuse that doesn't respond to any of these approaches. The most important thing to remember is this: while you cannot control how others treat you, you always have control over how you respond, what you accept, and how you view yourself. Sometimes, the greatest act of self-respect is creating some emotional distance from relationships that consistently diminish your dignity. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting off contact, though in cases of abuse, that might be necessary. More often, it means adjusting your expectations, investing more in relationships that are mutually respectful, and finding peace within yourself regardless of others' behavior. The 6 attitudes we've explored: setting boundaries without guilt, communicating with courage and clarity, reclaiming your independence, cultivating outside relationships, practicing strategic forgiveness, and embracing your inherent value, work together to create a foundation of self-respect. From this foundation, you can make clearer decisions about your relationships and find greater peace, regardless of how others choose to behave. Remember Margaret from the beginning of our video? After implementing these attitudes over several months, her relationship with her children showed significant improvement. Her daughter, who had been the most dismissive, actually thanked her for speaking up. "Mom," she said, "I didn't realize how I was coming across. I respect you so much, but I wasn't showing it." Not every story ends this perfectly, but Margaret's experience demonstrates an important truth. Respect often begins with self-respect. When you value yourself enough to require respectful treatment, you create the possibility for more authentic, satisfying relationships at any age. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing one insight from this video that resonated with you and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, and reading your comments gives us great motivation to continue creating content that makes a difference. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps us continue creating quality content to inform and inspire seniors everywhere. Remember, you deserve respect at every age. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.